Your eyes may be closed as you're observing the breath and cultivating a bigger breath. A breath that starts to fill up into the pelvis. So the whole torso is filling with air. And you feel expansive energy through the whole torso like a balloon, but especially down into the pelvis. The belly is soft and pliable. Bring your hands together and begin to rub your hands vigorously. Begin to generate heat through friction. And then shake your hands out. And we'll continue activating our palm chakras here by squeezing our fist and then flaring the fingers out. Squeeze and stretch. Squeeze and stretch. You can think of flinging water off your fingers and then squeezing really tightly in, almost digging your fingertips into the hands. Continue to move your hands, clenching and stretching, as you take your arms out to the side, stretching your shoulders. Breathing into your torso, your arms will raise above head. Still clenching and stretching your fingers. Arms directly above head. Your legs are still soft in the at the ready position. And then begin to take the arms down. You may be fatiguing in the forearms. Continue for a few more tight fists. And then bring your hands back together. Gently rub your palms. You may place your hands on the belly. Circle your pelvis. You could also have your hands on your hips as you do this. You're just creating movement between the femurs and the pelvis. Hips go back, hips go forward. They find both sides as you circle. If your hands on your belly, you can feel the softness in the belly that allows the hips to move, and then reverse your circle. We're stirring up the energy in our low pelvis. The pelvis in Chi philosophy is called the Dantian. It's our low energy center. Then go back to your soft knees and swing the pelvis side to side. And as you do this, imagine you had a bowl of water in the pelvis. And as you shift side to side, you can feel the water slosh. Now you can adjust your stance just for a moment. Flex right foot, flex left foot. Do that a couple times, alternating feet. And the next time you flex your right foot, dig into your heel and rotate a few times, just the leg. Torso stays square, you're just finding rotation from the heel up to the hip. Then try that on the other side. Flex the foot and rotate. You can keep the pelvis still, but just rotate the leg in and out. Do the same thing on the ball of your foot. So from the side, I'm coming up onto the ball of the foot and then the other. And as I do this, I'm stretching my toes. We usually do this in downward dog. The next time you're on the ball of the right foot, keep the hips square as you rotate the leg in. You'll feel the hip widen. It's a really subtle movement. And then switch sides. On the ball of your right foot, you're digging into the right foot to create a little resistance from the hip to the toe as you rotate the knee in and in. And you feel the hip kind of widen in the back as you do that. So we prepared the hands and we've prepared the feet. We've worked on the distal points of the body. Now we're going to connect, and we've also worked a little bit on the pelvis, the center point of the body. So now we're going to connect those points in space, our feet and our hands. As we move, think about gathering energy from the space around you. You may imagine that the air is thick. Here we are. Sweep your arms up above head. Turn your toes out and sit down, pressing your hands out to the side. Then teeter-totter forward, turning your toes to the front of your mat. Pivot the right toes out, open your left arm. Close. Bring the right toes back, pivot your left foot out, open the right arm. Close. Both toes forward, palms up, gather energy from the earth. Invert the palms and press to the sky. Dive forward, hinging at the hips as you reach the crown of the head forward. Drop your pelvis as you reach the torso up, arms above head. And dive forward once again. Palms to the earth. This time palms are down, and like a suction cup, you unfurl the spine, pulling energy up through the body, past the crown of the head, and then you gather energy back to the dantian, to the pelvis. And we're prepared for our second round. Connecting the energy from your hands to the energy reservoir in your body. Reach your arms up. Turn your legs out as you sit low. Dive forward. Pivot the right foot out. Open your left arm. Opposite arm is leg. Close. Second side. Right arm lifts. Close. Palms up. Gather, unfurling the spine. Invert the palms and press. Dive forward. Drop your hips. Sit low, rocking horse. And dive forward again, drinking bird. Palms down. Unfurl the spine, drawing energy up through the body. And bring the hands down to the pelvis. Enjoy a breath. Big balloon-like breath, soft belly. And our third round. Sweep your arms up. Turn the legs out as you press. Dive forward. Right toes out, rotate to the left. Close. Other side. Close. Palms up, gather. Invert the palms and press. Dive forward. Hips down, drinking bird. And dive forward again. Palms down as you unfurl the spine, all the way to stand, and then regather energy at the center of the pelvis. Toe heel your feet underneath you and stand for a moment. Find your breath, big and full through the body. Moving into our warrior series. Warrior, advance, and retreat. Similar idea to what we've been doing, where the palms have energy. This time we'll take the hands above head, and then we continually bring energy into the body, and then we have this oppositional push-pull through the hands. Here we go. Right leg lifts as you sweep a ball of energy above head. Step your right foot back to a lunge. Gather energy into the body. Rotate to the back of your mat and press. Gather. Rotate and press. Third time. Gather, pivot, and press. Low retreat. Sweep your arms across the body to the left. Body is low. Do a circle right to left. Body is high. Step to the back of your mat. Arms sweep above head. You can lift your left leg. And then replace the foot. Hands come to the front of the pelvis. Second round, or the second side, excuse me. Sweep your arms above head, lifting left leg. Step left foot back, gather energy into the pelvis, pivot, and press. Right hand. Gather, pivot, and press. Gather, pivot, and press. Sweep the arms across the body, low retreat. Circle left to right, high retreat. Step to the top of the mat, onto the left leg, right leg lifts. And replace the foot, hands come to the pelvis. Take a breath. And we'll do that again. Sweep the arms above head as you lift right leg. Step right foot back. Gather, pivot, and press. Gather, pivot, and press. Gather, pivot, and press. Low retreat. High retreat. Step to your right foot. Replace your left foot. Second side. Sweep the arms up, left leg lifts. Step it back, gather, pivot, and press. Gather, pivot, and press. Gather, pivot, and press. Low retreat. High retreat. Step to the top of the mat. And recover. As you're doing this last sequence, now that you're a little familiar with the sequence, imagine the taffy-like energy between your hands. It really is this push-pull dynamic where there's resistance and an energetic connection between the hands, but also between the distal points of the body and the center point of the body. Last round. Feel that push-pull energy as you lift. Gather, pivot, press. Gather, pivot, and press. Last time, gather, pivot, and press. Low retreat. High retreat. Step to your right foot. Recover. Stretch. Push-pull energy rises. Gather. Pivot and press. Gather. Pivot and press. Last time, gather. Pivot and press. Low retreat. High retreat. Step to your left and recover. You can bring the fingertips together, lightly touching, or create a small space between your hands and imagine a swirling vortex of energy between your palms. Then imagine a similar swirling vortex of energy in the center of your pelvis. We'll go into our next sequence. This is the most yoga-like in shape. It has downward dog and lunge. This is our dragon lunge. Begin similar to what we just did, lifting the right leg, The arms sweep above head like you are stretching your dragon wings. Step the right foot back as you land in a low lunge, and you can hover for a moment, making this a little more challenging as you go to the floor. We'll begin with our left dragon wing stretching. So you twist your torso up, and then replace the left wing. Sweep your left foot back, stretching up to the sky. We'll call that left dragon tail. And step your left foot forward, back to where it was. Fly around the world. So you go up and over, landing on a lunge to the other side. Right dragon wing, open. And close. Right dragon tail. Lift the foot and sweep it back. Bring your knee to the nose and step your foot under the body. And you can slide it out to make space. Belly up to the sky, dragon's breath. You could reach up to the sky or put your hand behind your head, yogi's choice. Then bring your hands to the floor and your right dragon tail to the sky. Step your right foot through to a lunge. Option to lower your back knee down. Options to make fists with your hands. Unfurl your spine from the bottom to the top. Inhale. As you exhale, squeeze your shoulders and stick your tongue out. Stand up. And there's a couple ways you can do this. You can put your hands on the thigh, hands to the floor, or just sweep your arms up, shifting the weight to one foot, and then replace. The hands come out to the side. Second side. Stretch your arms out to the side as you lift left leg. Hover as you land in a lunge. Stretch your right dragon wing. Twist. Close. Right dragon tail. Step it back between the hands. Fly around the world. Land in a low lunge. Left wing. Close. Left tail. Knee to nose. Step the foot under, and you can slide it out, softening the right foot to pivot the hips open. Option to open the arm, reach to the sky, and then reach back down to the floor. Left foot slides back to your three-legged dog or left dragon tail. Then step your left foot through, lower the back knee down. Fists if you choose to unfurl. And then exhale. Stand up. And replace. As you stand up, when you shift weight from this big extension, reach your weight forward so you transfer weight as you stand up, making that movement as easy as possible. Or you can use your hands. Round two. Right leg lifts as you stretch your arms. Land in a lunge. Left dragon wing. Close. Left dragon tail. Step forward. Fly around the world. Land in a low lunge. Right dragon wing. Close. Right dragon tail. Step it under and across. Belly to the sky, belly of the beast. And close. Right dragon wing or tail. And step it forward. Dragon's breath. Big exhale. Stand up. And recover. Let's take a recovery breath before the second round or second side. Left leg lifts. Inhale. Land in a lunge. Right dragon wing. Close. Right dragon tail. Step forward. Fly around the world. Land in a lunge. Left dragon wing. Close. Left dragon tail. Knee to nose and across the body, belly to the sky. Close. Left dragon tail. Step forward, dragon lunge. Big breath in. And breath out. Stand up. And recover. Before we move into our final time through this sequence, I invite you to think about the connection of your energetic center, the low dantian, that part we were waking up in the beginning, to our distal points, the fingers and toes, that reach out in space. So you have this star-like energy where this is the nucleus and there's stretching energy through the various points in space. You could even consider your head and your tail as a limb that can also extend. Last round. Stretch your fingers away from the center. Your standing leg is stretching down and lunge. Left dragon wing. Close. Left dragon tail. Step forward. Fly around the world. Land in a lunge. Right dragon wing. Right dragon tail. Moving from the center out to the distal points. Knee to nose. Across. Right dragon tail. And step forward for dragon's breath. Big exhale. Stand. Recover. Right away, second side. Land in a lunge, right dragon wing. Close. Right dragon tail. Step forward. Fly around the world. Land in a lunge. Stretch from the center to the limbs. Close. Left dragon wing. Tail. Under and across. Recover the hand. Left dragon tail. Step forward, dragon's breath. Last time. Biggest inhale. Full exhale, tongue out. Stand up. And recover. Hands in front of the pelvis. Knees soft. You can even separate your feet a little wider than hips width. Imagine the backside of your body widening. Go ahead and fetch your props. Make your way to the floor as you like. You might enjoy a sun salutation to take you down to the floor, or another transition. When you set up with your props, probably 2 pillows and maybe a bolster or a third pillow. Our first shape will be seated with our legs in front. Your legs can be far away from your pelvis, ample space. And we'll occupy that space with our bolster or blocks. So you're creating a surface or a support structure that can support your torso. And then ideally, you'd like your head to release as well. So maybe you have another pillow that you use for your forehead, or perhaps a block. Wherever you are, know that we're moving from the yang part of practice that is vigorous, fiery, designed to heat the body and stir the energy, to the yin part of the practice, the cooling, lunar side of our practice. And so there's a conscious movement away from doing into undoing, which is counterintuitive. We begin in the body by undoing movement and just allowing the body to be here, committing to stillness, and allowing the effects of gravity to impact the body. So as you remain here, you may begin to feel the body become heavier. You're also undoing the habits of the mind. Our mind, most of our wakeful day, is doing, in the process of thinking and planning, and in this moment, we're retraining the habits of the mind to be content with stillness. I find this is easier to achieve when I'm moving. When the body's moving, the mind can stay focused on the different qualities of movement. But in stillness, the mind feels more free to do what it likes. To run, to think, to plan. Purposefully set aside the doing. And sometimes the breath is your best tool for quieting the mind. We're here for another 2 minutes. If you're observing the breath, you may be able to keep your mind focused on the breath. But you may notice the mind drifts away from the breath, and all of a sudden you realize you've been away from a focus on the breath for a period of time. In that moment, gently nudge your attention back to the breath. For me, that's the most interesting part, or perhaps the most exciting part of the yin practice. Noticing those moments when your mind drifts away. They're so common. And to accept them without judgment and, I lost track of a quiet mind, that adds to an unquiet mind. But rather to notice, I was drifting away, and to very gently nudge your attention back. That act of noticing has been described to me as a feather brushing a crystal glass. You notice you're thinking about something else, and you nudge your attention as gently as a feather brushing a crystal glass back to the breath. Enjoy your last inhale here. And exhale. Slowly bring your body back up. Set your props aside, and let's move them all to one side. We'll need all the props on one side. Whichever side your props ended up on, for me that's my left, fold that leg in front, and then turn your other leg over, kind of behind or beside you. For lack of better imagery, it's kind of like a cheerleader sitting position. Then rotate your body toward the pillows or toward your bolsters, whatever bolsters you have, and then begin to recline the body. So you're laying on the bolsters and deeply compressing the bottom hip. Once you find your position, you can wiggle for a minute, establishing a position that is sustainable for a few minutes. Looking to, for me it's to the right, but looking toward the knees is more accessible. Turning your gaze the other direction, away from the knees, is considerably more intense. You may begin by noticing your breath. And if you return to belly breathing, you'll feel the breath come into the low abdomen and provide a little internal massage to those deep core muscles. Core muscles live on the back and front and sides of the body. So visualize your breath as a three-dimensional object or a three-dimensional thing. Maybe you hold on to that imagery as a point of focus for this pose. The imagery of a balloon works really well for me. It's three-dimensional, it has elasticity, and that elasticity is equally distributed throughout that three-dimensional shape. So as you're breathing here, you might just invest a little mental energy in how you're breathing. Are you giving equal emphasis, or are you able to give, are you allowing equal emphasis for the breath in all three dimensions? For me, when I move my attention to three-dimensional breathing, I tend to discover my back is tight. For you, it might be the sides, that oblique space. It might be the iliopsoas. That's a muscle that runs through the torso and connects your legs to your spine. Wherever you are, let your mind dwell quietly in that place. Observation is a very, very low effort act. As soft in effort as a crystal or a feather brushing a crystal glass. We're here for one more minute. As you remain in this pose, find comfort in quietness. We're socialized to value high productivity and making use of the most of our time. But give yourself the gentle reminder that being still in the body and still in the mind is the most important thing you can do. For one more breath. Bring your torso up. Coming out of this pose gently, You might release your legs out in front. You can do any improvisational pose before we move to the second side. I like this thing a friend of mine called Mermaid on the Beach, which is just laying on your elbows, knees bent, letting them rock side to side. After you've improvised movement for a few breaths, you can set up your second side. Adjusting your bolsters, pillows, whatever you have, to your other side. One leg stays folded in front, the other leg turns over behind you. Rotate your torso toward the bolsters and lay down, deeply compressing the bottom hip. A reminder that looking to the left is a little more accessible. Looking toward the knees is more accessible, doesn't matter which side you're on. Looking away from the knees is more intense. And you might have discovered after being there for a few minutes, looking toward the knees, you were able to turn your gaze. And while I can't see you, one of the reminders in a Yin class is commit to stillness. Resolve to stay. Resolve in Sanskrit is sankalpa. It's one of the key tenets of this practice. We often carry little wiggles in our body, little almost movement tics. These reflect maybe physical tension we're carrying in the body. They might reflect psychological tension. Begin to notice those subtle and normally unconscious urges to move. While unconscious, they reveal something about our inner state, something that is unsettled or perhaps unbalanced. The only task that stays with you is the gentle reminder to quiet the mind. Everything else you're doing is actually undoing. Which is difficult because undoing, that word is confusing. A better word may be allow. Allow the body to soften. Allow the mind to feel the effects of gravity pressing the body down. And when you release your physical effort, really allowing those muscles to let go, then you can allow the mind to feel gravity a bit more, perhaps. The anthropologist Pierre Bourdieu identified the socialized things that we do as our habitus. He said it in Latin, and then it became habits. And these habits grow from within, but more often there is a response to external stimulus. So part of what we're doing is removing external stimulus. The biggest stimulus is often our thoughts. Your mind might also be distracted by physical stimulus in the form of sensations, tension in the body that tugs on your awareness. And I would be remiss if I didn't connect the idea of habitus to the way we exist in the world and our habits in dealing with other people, particularly people of other races. We're socialized as white people to not identify our race, and that's part of our habitus. So when we take this moment to quiet the mind and identify our habits, it can make space to become aware of those habits we're unconsciously socialized into. And while unpacking those is work for off the mat, the preparation for that work happens on the mat. We're rounding out our last minute here. Enjoy a few more breaths. On your next inhale, gently begin to exit the pose. Release your legs as you can or as you need, and any improvisational movement. This can be easy like mermaid on the beach, not the official name. Or it could be as invigorating as a sun salutation. You could jump back into a yang practice if you're feeling some excited energy in the body that needs release. Preparing for our next shape, you can set up the bolsters one way, but the body can relate to them in two different ways. One version is to lay on your back, your hips are on the floor, the torso is supported by the pillows, and so you have a bit of extension to the spine. Knees can be open with feet together and hands beside the hips. When you start to take your arms out to the side or even up to a Y shape, this becomes more intense it just becomes more intense. The other version is prone. On your belly, your hips are still on the floor, and your torso is still supported by the bolsters, except your belly down. This is kind of like when you were a kid, TV watching position. You're supported by the bolsters, the spine is in extension. Whichever position you're in, the spine is extended. Just supporting the spine in different ways provides different stimulus. If you're belly down, prone, you may look to one side and after a few minutes change to the other side. Or you might be able to balance on your chin or mouth. The same scholar friend who introduced me to the idea of mermaid on the beach, or she just named that shape mermaid on the beach and it stuck with me. This movement scholar also describes your belly button as this really important energetic center, and that reflects yoga philosophy. It is one of our energetic centers. It's responsible for building and generating heat in the body. Agni, the heat of digestion, lives right here in the belly. It helps you convert food into fuel, and that requires heat. And on the notion of food, this energy center she described to me as a mouth. And if you think about it developmentally, our umbilical cord was our first mouth. This is our first source of nutrition. And in the way our mouth can open and be a gaping cavern, like during a yawn, or really bear down and tighten like when we're biting into something or clenching our teeth, our belly can do that. So I've offered the image of a balloon in regards to the breath. I'll also offer the image of a mouth. Your belly is a mouth that can open, gape open in all directions, and draw inward softly. And as you do that, you might also imagine philosophically what a mouth does. It provides nourishment. And so, in similar ways, breathing with the belly in this deep, meaningful way is nourishing. And that image of the breath might keep the mind focused. And that becomes nourishing for the mind as well as the body. Gently bring yourself out of this shape. And we'll have two more shapes. One on each side. The setup for this one can sound a little confusing. You'll put one of the pillows or one of the bolsters behind you. You may or may not need it. I'm on my right side. Your bottom hand can hold on to the top knee, and you can separate your knees. So the top knee is in front and the bottom knee is behind. Then rotate your chest open to the sky, and this is where the pillow can be handy. You can rest the shoulder on the pillow. The top hand finds the bottom foot, so the foot that's kind of behind you. So you have one hand on the top knee, bottom hand on top knee, top hand on bottom foot. Or I could say opposite hand to opposite leg. You're gently rotating your chest open in opposition to the pelvis. And if you did any effort achieving that rotation, relax the effort, undo effort, and just allow the body to be here. Allow gravity to do the work. And allow for a deep breath to work three-dimensionally in the body, like a balloon or like your first mouth. As you work with noticing, you may notice your mind habitually goes to a specific place. Or your mind habitually begins thinking in a certain way. What I've always said in yoga is that we need to avoid judging that moment of when we notice that our mind is doing maybe not what we want it to do. To take away that habit of punishing ourselves or reacting to. Noticing and then moving forward into the next step without going back and punishing the behavior. And that's the same thing for moving forward into your socialized habits. And I'll once again reference our relationship to race, particularly myself as a white person. When we're confronted with our own racism or racial prejudice, that knee-jerk reaction happens, and it might be defensiveness, it might be, there's a cavalcade of responses. The practice of yoga in training the mind to focus on the breath and very gently returning your attention to the breath is the same practice of noticing when you've committed any sort of ethical, moral wrong, and you're confronted with that, rather than having that knee-jerk reaction or trained habitual response. We're retraining and allowing for new pathways, new responses. One more breath in and a breath out. So to transition to your next side, you can just remove the pillow, roll onto your back, take a moment or two on your back, any movement you need, and then we'll go to the second side. On your second side, the top knee slides forward, the bottom knee slides back, so the legs are separated. The bottom hand holds the top knee, the top hand holds your foot. And I set up without the pillow and realized that a pillow was very helpful. So you may have that pillow under your shoulder or maybe even under your shoulder and head to support the rotation so you can relax the body, so you can remove the effort. Once you've allowed the body to be here and are allowing gravity to do the work, allow the mind to focus on the breath. When the mind drifts, or if the mind drifts, notice and bring it back. Also notice in that moment if a tendency to judge or evaluate or to assess in any way happens. Even in Michigan, I've come to take on the Michigan self-critical judgment. Oh! Kind of stands in for oops or I'm sorry, which implies a judgment of some sort for the act that was done. So when you notice the mind has drifted and you gently bring it back, you notice you come back, and maybe even notice that tendency to say, oh. For me, that's noticing, oh, oops, as in, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to, or, and that's a way, that's another, it's a light form, low-key form of judgment evaluation, self-judgment. And so that, like any other habit, is socialized and it's part of us. It's part of our habitus, it's part of our way of being. And invisibilizing that part of ourselves doesn't make it go away. Ignoring it, not talking about it, not acknowledging it doesn't make it go away. It's still there. One more breath. And gently roll to your back. We've been in a yin state for quite some time, so meditation will be brief. As you give your body an opportunity to relax on the floor, you may support the body with a bolster one final time, and that might be placing a pillow under your knees. It might be placing a pillow under your back. And you can fold the pillow up to support the length of your spine, or do any other variation with whatever props you have. Wherever you land there physically, mentally, and spiritually. Notice the breath. Maybe noticing the breath in a way similar to the way you've noticed it before, like a balloon or like a nourishing mouth. Gently bring your attention back to your space. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Bring movement back to the body slowly. Stretch arms overhead. Roll to one side. And eventually press up to a seated position. Hands in your lap or at the center of your chest. One Om. Bow your head to meet your heart. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.